मेदिनि नन्दितमेदिनि विश्वविनोदिनि नन्दिनुते गिरिवरविन्द्यशिरोदिनि वासिनि विष्णुविलासिनि जिष्णुनुते भगवति हेशिति कण्ठकुटुम्बिनि भूरि कुटुम्बिनि भूरि कृते जय जय हे महिषासुरमर्दिनि रम्यकपर्दिनि शैलसुते सुरवरवर्षिणि दुर्धरदर्शिनि दुर्मुखमर्षिनि हर्षरते त्रिभुवनपोषिणि शङ्करतोषिणि किल्बिषमोषिनि घोषरते धनुजनिरोषिणि दितिश्रुतरोषिणि दुर्मथतोषिनि सिन्धुसुते जय जय हे महिषासुरमर्दिनि रम्यकपर्दिनि शैलसुते जय जय हे महिषासुरमर्दिनि रम्यकपर्दिनि शैलसुते जय जय हे महिषासुरमर्दिनि रम्यकपर्दिनि शैलसुते.
Hi guys, thank you for joining the live stream. We continue today, after I think 3 weeks, our discussion of this book called The Religion of India, or The Religions of India. Yeah, The Religion of India, the Sociology of Hinduism and Buddhism by Max Weber. And for those of you who will be checking out discussions on this book for the first time in their lives, who have missed our previous 2 episodes on this, do check that out. Do check out those 2 live streams as well. It's a separate playlist called Max Weber on Hinduism, okay, on our channel. Now, for those of you who have followed those live streams, you all know that this is an insane, incredible book. So far, we are just 18 pages into it. But so far, in these 18 pages, we have noticed almost RSS talking points, BJP talking points, any random Hindutvadi talking point that you all can come up with in their when those people, RSS, BJP or Hindutva people, say good things about Indian society or say good things about India's glorious past. All those things have been said by Max Weber as well. Therefore, which is our running joke on this channel for the last 2 streams that we have done on this book, is that Max Weber is a hidden Sanghi or an RSS ka dalla, okay? Avinav is asking, দাদা 27th নবান্ন ঘেরাও হবে, যাবে নাকি? বাবার বিয়ে লেগেছে নাকি? আমি বাড়া ঘেরাও হয়ে যাব তারপর। তো we'll do a little bit of a recap and then continue from where we left on the last day stream. Insane things. I mean, those of you who have not seen those 2 streams, the first 2 live streams on this topic, have no idea what you all are missing. The insane things. You will, hearing these things, you'll absolutely think that it's coming from some Sanghi on Facebook or Twitter, okay? They're absolute Max Weberian arguments, incredibly. And the reason why we are discussing this book from our channel mainly is that even these things have been hidden from us. Max Weber is the guy who pointed out that castes are nothing but status groups, and status groups happen everywhere in the world, of course. So why single out Hinduism for this vile practice of hating someone for being for being part of a group that too based on their family hereditary birth in a family, okay? So everyone knows of Max Weber in sociology, in social sciences. Even STEM guys have heard of Max Weber, but his other writings, not this book, not his work on India. That's the insane part. So we'll do a bit of a recap and then continue, okay? Where did we end last day? Yes. This subchapter, I think we can do an entirety of this subchapter. Is this too big? Yeah, this is a gigantic subchapter, so we can't do an entire recap for this. So we'll just do a little short recap, okay? The topic was, this chapter is called India and Hinduism. The subchapter is called, अरे कहाँ पे शुरू है इस subchapter? Man, it's so big. एक minute. Can't find where this second subchapter started. Oh yeah, diffusion patterns of Hinduism. Yeah, so that's where we are. Hmm. Let's continue. At the present time, the ancient sect of Lingayat is going through this development. Okay, what development? Let's see. तो या थोड़ा और थोड़ा recap करना पड़ेगा. We have observed the momentum of the caste system in its diffusion through the assimilation of tribes. Once established, the assimilative power of Hinduism, देखो, the assimilative power of Hinduism is so great that it tends even to integrate social forms considered beyond its religious borders. यही तो thus religious movements of expressly anti-Brahminical and anti-caste character that is contrary to one of the fundamentals of Hinduism have been in all essentials returned to caste order. Okay, you have a different way of looking at things, you are just a different caste. And I think that's what they thought of Muslims as well in the beginning, that okay, these seem to be kind of a different kind of an invader, they are just a different caste in this society. The process is not hard to explain. When a principled anti-caste sect recruits former members of various Hindu castes and tears them from the context of their former ritualistic duties, the caste responds by excommunicating all the sect's proselytes. Unless the sect is able to abolish the caste system altogether instead of simply tearing away some of its members, it becomes, from the standpoint of the caste system, a quasi guest folk. गेस्ट फोक का कॉन्सेप्ट क्या है, ये हमने पहले दिन के लाइव स्ट्रीम में डिस्कस किया था. A kind of confessional guest community in an ambiguous position in the prevailing Hindu order. Further definition of the situation by the remaining Hindus depends upon the style of life elaborated in the new community. If the sect permitted a way of life Hinduism considers ritually defiling, like beef consumption, the Hindus treat it as a pariah people, and if this condition continues long enough, as an impure caste, but never killing them. Punarai Namaskar Abhay. Neon is saying back with a cool haircut. Yes, lol, thank you. Hindu Vichardhara ma'am is saying RSS ka dalla is cool. Yeah, and true in fact, maybe. And if this condition, what if RSS like Hydra is an ancient organization that recruited all these academics like Max Weber, Declan Quigley, Nicholas Dirks to say good things about India, but no one took them seriously when they said good things about India. And if this condition continues long enough as an impure caste, we have already noted the fluidity of such transitions. If ritualistic defilement is not indicated in time, particularly if the activities of the sect members are of a ritualistic nature, and such is usually the case, the sect may take its place among the surrounding castes as one with special ritualistic duties. Now, the sect developing into a caste needs only to be interested in securing its social rank over and against other castes. There is no obstacle to this. Indeed, there are Hindu castes which repudiate the Brahmans for their own priests. Okay, listen to what Max Weber is saying. There are Hindu castes which repudiate the Brahmans for their own priests. Okay, they give preference to their own priests over Brahmin priests. In the course of time, the sect can be recognized either as a single caste or sect caste, or as a caste with subcastes of different social rank. This last example occurs when the sect members are socially quite heterogeneous. Finally, the development can follow the pattern described as tribal assimilation to the Hindu order, also known as Sanskritization, I guess. The upper strata of the sect become priests, landlords, and merchants seeking recognition as Brahmins, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas, but the remaining plebs become one or more Shudra castes in order to share the social and economic privileges of the upper castes of their Hindu surroundings. At the present time, the ancient sect of the Lingayat is going through this development. Originally, in the Middle Ages, it represented a type of particularly sharp and principled quote-unquote Protestant reaction to the Brahmans and the caste order. Max Weber खुद quote-unquote Protestant बोल रहा है. From census to census, it has come to conform more and more to the Hindu order, and it now demands the registration of its members according to the 4 classical Hindu castes. For some time, the Lingayat sect has undergone a characteristic process of status differentiation suggestive of the gentility claimed by the descendants of the Mayflower pilgrims in New England. Okay, जैसा कि जेंटिलिटी मेफ्लावर पिलग्रिम्स इन न्यू इंग्लैंड क्लेम करते हैं, वैसा ही लिंगायत का भी हो गया है. The descendants of the first converts considered themselves more genteel and highly privileged than the latter proselytes. ये तो obvious है, ये तो होता ही है. Madras Musings present, sir. Hi, Madras Musings. Avinav is saying RSS Illuminati, yes. Abhay is saying all Hindutva talking points are being corroborated by Max Weber, yes. Which shows, uh, since the founding days of RSS, people like Sitaram Goel, they had read everything, all of these people, no? तब भी उतना कॉमिफिकेशन नहीं हुआ ना एजुकेशन सिस्टम का, तो इन लोगों के सिलेबस में था, सजेस्टेड रीडिंग में था, और सीताराम गोयल जैसे एविड रीडर्स, वोरेशियस रीडर्स, तो क्या है मतलब, अच्छा मैक्स वेबर नाम का कोई अच्छा बंदा है, उसका कोई बुक पढ़ना है, अच्छा एक पढ़ लिया तो, और चलो 2-3 भी पढ़ लेते. तो आई एम गेसिंग दैट्स हाउ the birth of RSS, the birth of Hindutva talking points happened, I think. Bring It On is saying, bro, you should make your live streams more interactive by allowing your subscribers to speak their mind on the subject being discussed. Yeah, I can't do that on specific these subject days, because people already complain about my live streams being too long. So after discussing the book, if we leave some time for the interactions on this particular topic, then people will see 3-hour live streams for every topic, no? So I keep my audience interactions just for the audience interaction days only. Avinav is saying, yes, they were very well read, it seems. Yeah, they were. Abhay saying, in fact, in Hindi, when a Hindu marries a Muslim, it is said the dusre jaat mein biyah kar liya, and which is why probably in Bengali, I think in most Indian languages, jati is often the substitute for the word religion. दादा आपको डीएम कर सकते हैं क्या ट्विटर पे? हाँ, ट्विटर पे पता नहीं, मैंने सेटिंग्स कुछ नहीं किया है, बट मेरा क्योंकि पेड अकाउंट है, तो इसलिए वेरीफाइड अकाउंट है, तो इसलिए शायद मैं तुमको नहीं फॉलो करूं तो तुम भी मुझे डीएम नहीं कर पाओगे. सो इंस्टाग्राम इज बेटर, इंस्टाग्राम और मेल. हेलो दादा, नमस्कारम. हेलो विजय. लेट्स कंटिन्यू देन. द मेंबर्स ऑफ द जैन congregations, which today frequently intermarry with certain merchant castes, are occasionally considered Hindus by Hinduists. Buddhism in principle had not infringed upon the caste order. Its monks, as we shall see, were and are thought to be out and out heretics, and they themselves claim to be non-Hindus. Yeah, and okay, but interestingly, they had not infringed upon the caste order. Okay, that's the important part, because many great academics will corroborate this, that not only was Buddhism not a fight against casteism, they in fact did not do anything about the caste system. You should do a stream or video at least on Arjikor and how the state government is covering it up. No? Then I'll have to do my live streams from Presidency Jail. That did not, however, prevent isolated Buddhistic communities on the North Indian border from acquiring a peculiar caste stratification after the monasteries had become secularized into prebends. Islam too succumbed in India to the engulfing tendency toward caste formation. In this case, caste formation could be linked to the typical status stratification of classical Islam. The actual or alleged descendants of the Prophet and certain families religiously ranking close to his Sib, the Sayyid or Sharif, had privileged status, the Ashrafs, we know today. Likewise, status stratification developed status stratification, which is why castes are status groups stemming from different profession-based guilds. ये है core essence of caste. इससे ज़्यादा कुछ नहीं, इससे कम कुछ नहीं. ये खराब है, मगर सिर्फ इंडिया में नहीं है, सिर्फ हिंदुइज्म में नहीं है. दैट इज द एंटायर पॉइंट ऑफ, आई थिंक, मैक्स वेबर, मी, मिस्टर सोशोलॉजिस्ट, एंड होपफुली द हिंदुत्व 2.0 movement. Likewise, status stratification developed after indiscriminate propaganda had been halted for financial reasons, and the ancient privilege exempting old believers from taxation had been denied to new converts, thus posing one group against the other. ये टर्की के बारे में बात हो रहा है. Not Turkey, Islam in general. In India, this meant the setting of the Middle Eastern and Persian immigrants against Indian proselytes. Finally, and appropriate to the feudal character of ancient Islamic society, the Sibs of the landlords stood opposed to the Sibless peasants, and above all, to the craftsmen. These differences, with their respective variations, determined the form Islamic and castes developed in India. We are not here concerned with the fact that numerous Hindu castes worship Islamic saints alongside Hindu deities, that mixed formations like the sect of the Sikhs developed, and that Indian Islam also borrowed numerous Hindu rituals. I don't know about this much what happens outside West Bengal, but in villages of West Bengal, these things are in fact true. Uh, Idol worship, which is supposedly absolutely looked upon as heresy in Islam, it's done by Muslim villagers in Bengal, and that's often showed by the subaltern Wadi commies who visit these villages once in a while to portray this syncretic culture as a reality of Hindu-Muslim relations in general in India forever and after, etc. But there are villages who do these things actually. Of course, I know that those idols uh, are not representations of anything Arabic. It's just that the people who converted those Muslims did not force the kind of hatred for idolatry to that extent. So they thought, okay, I am worshipping this god. I'll keep worshipping that god, and I'll just have to keep a Muslim name and maybe start consuming beef and have a beard in a different way. Okay, I'll do that. That's how the negotiations happened, I think. So the problem is what happens the day ship sinks in those villages on particular occasions. Okay, that is the problem. You'll find many Muslim, Hindu, atheists, secular liberals, commies in Bangladesh saying that no, there are no Hindu-Muslim tensions in Bangladesh. Okay, the problem is that they will bring out these sorts of examples to argue against anyone claiming that yeah, there are in fact Hindu-Muslim problems. But yeah, what happens the day the ship sinks? Like we saw ships continuously sinking since Sheikh Hasina left. That's the problem. Y'all can be friends, worship the same idols even, but there is a different identity qualifier, identity marker, which comes into force in a different way. That is the problem. M Shastri, yeah, but it was neighbors that was burning down Hindu houses. Yeah. By the way, it's saying please read the science behind Hindu caste system. Okay, who is it written by? Now they want a separate religion. Basically, social hierarchy exists everywhere. Yes. You should do a stream. Okay, yeah. Keep yourself safe, Dada. Yeah. Thank you. Okay. So we are not here concerned with the fact that numerous Hindu castes worship Islamic saints alongside Hindu deities, that mixed formations like the sect of the Sikhs developed, and that Indian Islam also borrowed numerous Hindu rituals. What interests us here is the assimilative power of the Hindu life. देखो आरएसएस का दल्ला फिर से क्या बोल रहा है. Max Weber is not even concerned with the Hindu-Muslim friendship. He's saying what interests me is the assimilative power of the Hindu life order due to its legitimation of social rank, and not to be forgotten, possible related economic advantages. So, in a way, is he arguing, based on the 20 pages that we have read so far, that castes were the reason why religious tolerance existed, okay, or caste kind of offset the um, religious intolerance seen everywhere, that okay, I'm not going to kill you for being from a different religion, you'll just be a little lower in my eyes, which is the case anyway in societies where there is complete legal freedom for anyone to practice any religion. But status is of course a different ball game altogether. Status can't be solved with laws. Okay, statusism can't be rectified by simply passing laws in the minds of the people, which is implicit bias, the unconscious bias. So I guess Hinduism went a step ahead, a step further, and codified into law this emotion, this instinct, this sentiment itself, that yeah, I'm not going to kill you. You're just a lower caste person in status. Of course, the problem in general philosophically then comes up, which is the reason we are facing these problems even today, is that once you codify things into law, the natural evolution goes away, and the natural evolution was largely there up until the British completely screwed it, rigidified the entire process. That's when the real insanity began. Vijay Kumar is saying those who convert from Hindus haven't been vitriolic per se. Curious case, Dada. When Jamaat came in regions of Haryana, then the hatred picked up. I believe, Dada, one cannot go out of our philosophy. Religious shift at a societal level is never abrupt, but happens on a spectrum, right? Caste as a science should be studied as such instead of bashing on Hindu community. Well, that this book is basically about that only. In Kashmir, Kashmir's made deals with jihadis to forcibly acquire their right. M Shastri, exactly. That is the problem in Bangladesh, basically. That now these Kashmiris who made deals, they are the ones who are friends with those people on the rest of the days. On the day the ship sinks, they are the ones who are going to come for your property. That is the problem. Hence that four Muslim friends fallacy, which is why it can't work. Nandi Shegre is saying Karnataka had Bibi Fatima temples. Yeah, we have also a temple for a local deity called Ola Bibi. Okay, and people point that out as a sign of Hindu Muslim friendship. But again, that remember that most Muslim converts of the Bengal region, meaning entire Bangladesh, the Bengal presidency, that is, were basically tribal people. So tribal gods, who later we can today call them Hindu gods and goddesses, because they were accommodated in the Hindu way of looking things only. But the Muslims who worshipped, let's say, those local pre-Sanskritized tribal gods who became Muslims went on worshipping them. They did not, or at least some of them, did not stop worshipping them just because they are now getting considered Hindu gods. Which is why I think commie subalternist people, when they visit these places in the forest, jungles, and villages, etc., they almost get triggered when you call them Hindu gods and goddesses, or different forms of Hindu gods and goddesses. They say, no, loko devota, okay? So local, loko is not translation for local, although in Sanskrit it kind of is location, lok, iholok, porolok, okay? But lok in Bengali today means log in Hindi, which is people, which has come from Arabic, mamluk meaning mamuli log, slave dynasty, etc. But I think the reason that they want to keep it just as loko devota and not a form of a Hindu deity is because they want this to be their rallying point of Hindu-Muslim unity. And if deities like Panjuli Deva, Guliga Deva were in Bengal, they would call those loko devota and keep them away from the Hindu fold. Although the Muslims of Karnataka probably don't have a disagreement anymore, because when Sanskritization did happen, remember the story is that there used to be an ongoing fight between Guliga Deva and Panjuli Deva. It was Ma Durga who came and mediated between them. Bono Bibi in Sundarbans, yeah. Ola Bibi works like that only. The central and insanely popular. I know of an Ola Bibi temple in South Kolkata where housewives, kids are taken from absolute commie, liberal, secular atheist families as well, almost every day to light candles there. Okay. Now the next subchapter that we're going to start today is called Hindu Doctrine and Ritual. Let's see if he's right. Like Confucianism, Hinduism knows the dualism of doctrine and ritualistic duty. A distinction is made in Hindu terminology between Dharma and Mata. Mata. Holy cow. Dharma and Mat are not same things. Mata refers to metaphysical theology. To Christian doctrine, or Krishti Mata, for example, belong such ideas as the following: that all and only men have quote-unquote souls, which is the ancient starting point of racism against non-white people, that you don't have a soul because you don't have a holy text, which means you don't have a spirit that connects, or you talk to God, you pray to God, okay? Therefore, you are subhuman and you seem to be not white as well. Therefore, 2 + 2 = 4. Therefore, I hate you for just not being white only, okay? But Max Weber knows these things. This is insane. Mata refers to metaphysical theology. To Christian doctrine, or Krishti Mata, or Christomot in Bengal we would pronounce it, for example, belong such ideas as the following: that all and only men have souls, that a supermundane being created the world, and all souls out of nothing, okay? That each soul lives but once on the earth and is nevertheless immortal, that after life on earth, the soul must spend its eternal life in heaven or hell, that God produced through a virgin a God incarnate son, whose deeds and accomplishments are significant for man's salvation. See, RSS Kadalla Max Weber is pointing out that Christianity did not necessarily have to be a separate religion altogether in the Indian context, because people just ended up calling Christianity Christomot, Christimata, okay? So it's just another sect, just another caste inside in India. Abhay saying this is why the word for religion in Telugu is matam and not dharma. I see. I think mat is a much better translation for religion. Holy shit, this is amazing. Divya, आज क्या चल रहा है भाई लोग? Yeah, that discussion of this RSS Kadalla's book. Bring It On is saying the caste system was an offshoot of Dharma, much more pragmatic system of the labor distribution, aka the Varna system in the Middle Ages, and was based on one's inherent qualities, not birth, and was dynamic. No, it was based on birth, but it was also dynamic. That God produced, and it had to be based on birth because people generally, power structures generally tend to incentivize commie-like behavior, and castes were essentially profession-based guilds, and guilds is a commie behavior. So, but the difference with guilds of those days and castes or even unions of these days is that unions are absolute vile organizations that hamper business. Guilds were created for cooperation, and guilds and the status of a person from one guild did not have to be frozen in time forever and ever, because you could change your guild, your profession, and your status even by just paying some Brahmins to hack your account and your other account and change your genealogy. Brahmins were the IAS babus of those days, some Brahmins, at least some jatis of Brahmins, who were just doing the attestation that today's IAS babus do, or WBC's babus do. In our Telugu religion is called Matam. That's a brilliant translation for for religion, and it should not be Dharma. This is so brilliant. Why hasn't this been applied to Bengali? I guess the Bengalis of yesteryears could not ever imagine that people will have to be educated on the fact that these religions are so different from each other. Our constitution calls religions Dharma and not Mata. Yes. आज रेसलिंग की खतरनाक दादा हाउ आर यू ट्रेनिंग चल रहा है. Even Yogi ji uses mat mazhab for Abrahamic religions and not dharma. I see. Listen to his speeches, especially older ones, carefully. Interesting. Dada just dropped by to say Jai Shri Ram, or Rishabh. Mata is used in Kannada as well. I see. Wow. This is interesting. Okay, let's continue. This book always triggers so many fascinating conversations. It's easy to get distracted, but then we are not in a college classroom. It is itna distraction to chalta hi hai. Otherwise, how are we going to take the full juices out of this beautiful text? That God, so we are discussing Krishti Mata, that God produced through a virgin, a God incarnate son, whose deeds and accomplishments are significant for man's salvation. That schism occurs in the interpretation of special elements of Christian doctrine is no surprise to the Hindu, okay? The fact that schism occurs in the interpretation of special elements of Christian doctrine is no surprise to the Hindu. He is familiar with such differences through the sharp doctrinal cleavages of his philosophic schools and sects. Among the Brahmans, some Vishnu and Shiva sects would not even utter the names of each other's gods. Again, a Hindu is not disturbed by the fact that there are certain teachings one must accept to be a Christian. Although some Hindus may deny it, the same phenomena appears in Hinduism, while other controversial teachings may be freely discussed in one and the same church of as strictly doctrinal authority as the Catholic. So this RSS Kadalla Max Weber is basically advertising the tolerant nature of Hindu society. Let me just mark this as Hindu tolerance, the glories of Hindu tolerance. Or acceptance even. Precisely this freedom of opinion obtains in Hinduism to an exceptional degree. Arey, kya bol raha hai? Precisely this freedom of opinion obtains in Hinduism to an exceptional degree, so much so that the concept of dogma is entirely lacking. Fuck. Without becoming a non-Hindu, a Hindu could accept highly important and most characteristic doctrines which every denominational Christian would consider exclusively his own. For example, he could accept the whole Christology and its elaborations, which in fact deeply influenced the development of Vishnuite Krishna mythology. Although also the Hindu could accept the doctrine of justification through faith, a belief which also existed in Hinduism among the Bhagavat sects long before Christ. Damn. So you see why Max Weber needs to be hidden from mainstream academia. Because the paragraph we just read is the biggest, I think, demolition material against Christians who are using poor Hindus as cannon fodder for their proselytization. This is a huge statement against the idea of conversion from Hindu to Christianity. Conversion in Hinduism to Hinduism to chori do. Max Weber is basically making the case that there is no question of having to convert to Christianity even from a Hindu standpoint, because you are allowed to do those things anyway. This is incredible. हाँ दिव्या, और भी और भी sections आ रहा है. Most important from the Hindu standpoint are other elements, or rather presuppositions of Christian teaching, which for the Hindus make it a doctrine of barbarians or mlecha mata, as it was for Hellenic man. Hellen meaning Greek, Hellenic. These differences could also cause Christology and the doctrine of justification to change their meaning radically when taken into Hinduism. First, it would be necessary to renounce the claim of Christian doctrines to universal validity. In Hinduism, a teaching may be orthodox without being bindingly valid. In Hinduism, a teaching may be orthodox without being bindingly valid. A situation illustrated in the doctrinal differences in the interpretation of the Last Supper by the Reformed Church and the Lutherans when they united in an evangelical established church. And indeed, the doctrinal fluidity of Hinduism is not incidental, but rather the central issue of quote unquote religion as we conceive it. This guy used to get these things. Okay, so either today's Hindutvadis are, or people who have read Hindutvadis of past eras and are Hindutvadis today, either they don't know that their let's say mental gurus were, or at least indirect gurus were also inspired from Max Weber, or or the Hindutvadis of the past eras did not feel the need to explicitly say that Max Weber has said these things in the 1900s, early 1900s and stuff, of course, or this is simply the truth. And that's why people who have not read Max Weber are coming to the same conclusions as Max Weber himself. This is just Satya. Where is Mysterious Sociologist? He is there. I think he's coming on tomorrow to discuss an interesting topic. M. Shastri, how can we access the papers and books? Okay. Rather, the central issue of religion as we conceive it. According to Christian concepts, okay, this was a great sentence, by the way. Indeed, the doctrinal fluidity of Hinduism is not incidental, but rather the central issue of quote unquote religion as we conceive it. He knows that the way we, meaning Max Weber's race or religion, considers religion, that's not the way everyone considers religion. So, quote unquote religion as we conceive it. According to Christian concepts, the promise of transcendent values is the primary reason for belonging to a quote unquote religion. I'm not saying quote unquote, he's saying quote unquote. Moreover, in raising the issue of transcendent ends is posed the problem of the quote unquote path of salvation, or marga, the means by which the holy object is attainable by men. Disregarding the sacred but quote unquote this worldly values represented by Hinduism and considering it as a unit, Hinduism offers a choice of three apparently exclusively holy ends in the beyond. One, rebirth to a new temporary life on earth in circumstances at least as fortunate as the present ones, or what in contrast to the Christian is for the Hindu in the same category, rebirth in a paradise, A, in the world of God, Salokya, or near to God, Samipya, or C, as an apotheosized God, Surupya. Rebirth in paradise occurs with the same provisions as earthly rebirth. It is for a limited time followed by another rebirth. Nice. It is for a limited time followed by another rebirth. And right. And now the second point. Second way of salvation for Hindus. A second possible holy object is unlimited admission to the blissful presence of a supermundane God, Vishnu. Hence, immortality of the individual soul in one of the three forms listed above, what we just discussed. And the third holy object is the cessation of individual existence, and A, mergence of the soul in the all one, Sayujya, or B, submergence in nirvana. The nature of this latter state is in part variously explained, and in part left obscure. Okay, so the nature of this latter state is in part variously explained and in part left obscure. So some portions were, I guess, lost. Nandish is saying, Dada, what you mentioned, this paragraph is missing from my digital copy of the book. Isn't that mysterious? M. Shastri is saying, Dada, I was watching a talk by Sachin Patil, Warkari activist, and the comments from the Marathi Manus was like, you are expressing my thought on the current situation. Uh, okay, Imshatri's second point. To me, it means Hindutvadi have a problem of expressing their thought and their observations, hence we are more reactionary. Yeah. भाई डॉक्टर आनंद रंगनाथन जी के साथ एक लाइव कीजिए प्लीज. I did ping him once, but at that point he was very busy. Maybe some other day again. That's what you mentioned. This paragraph is missing. Yeah, great, Nandish. We need to write, I think, pop fiction thrillers like Da Vinci Code and stuff about missing texts, missing pages, missing paragraphs from different modern texts, and mysteriously wrong or different translations in for the same book in different languages, etc. Bring it on is saying mata simply means point of view. Yes, it is mostly a function of time. Not every mata of mine may be in line with my dharma. Then who is following the dharma? The dharma can't be just an abstract concept. The dharma is the description of a mata, at least. By Bal Katwaliya. Yes. Nandish, even some parts of Ambedkar book are missing from hard copy. Lol. That's what you mentioned. Yeah. Okay, so all three forms of the sacred ends are orthodox, although the third, to be precise, 3a, meaning the cessation of individual existence and emergence of the soul in the all one, that is Sayujya, that is specifically Brahminical. It is preferred by the most distinguished Brahman sect of the Smartas. Indeed, by these circles, the immortality doctrine is regarded as unclassical, quote unquote unclassical, though not anti Hindu, somewhat as the Taoistic doctrine is by the Confucians and the Pietist doctrine of grace by classical Lutherans. At any rate, the classical Hindu has a choice between the first and the third goals of holy endeavor. The first one meaning rebirth to a new temporary life on earth in circumstances at least as fortunate as the present ones, or what in contrast to the Christian is for the Hindu in the same category, and then is rebirth in a paradise. Rebirth in a paradise or near a god or as an apotheosized god, Sarupya. Okay, according to which teaching the Hindu follows, the paths leading to each of the three sacred ends differ radically. Asceticism, contemplation, works considered ritualistically pure, good works in the sense of social accomplishment, particularly professional virtues, enthusiastic faith or bhakti, are cumulative, alternative, or exclusive means to holy ends according to the end sought, according to the results you seek. Nor is the view lacking in classical literature in the Mahabharata that the individual secures for himself the kind of sacred value epitomized by the deity in whom he has faith and with whom he seeks refuge. Thus, the conception that, quote unquote, to you may happen as you believed, is taken in its most daring sense. Dada, which edition are you reading? First, second, or okay? Let me look for it. It's not written anywhere. It just says this edition is from 2020. So I guess it's a new translation as well. Mine one is translated by Hans H. Girth and Don Martindale. They've publishers from New Delhi, okay? It's published in India, but no one reads it. And also, when was it printed? Yeah, 2020, I guess, then. Yeah. Printed in India, 2020. Yeah. They've publishers and distributors. Okay. So, thus, the conception that to you may happen as you believed is taken in its most daring sense. Broader religious tolerance. This was a great paragraph. So, according to which teaching, the Hindu follows the paths leading to each of the three sacred ends differ radically. Okay. Asceticism, contemplation, works considered ritualistically pure, good works in the sense of social accomplishment, particularly professional virtues, or enthusiastic faith, bhakti, are cumulative, alternative, or exclusive means to holy ends. Okay, they are cumulative means to holy ends. They can be alternative means to holy ends, and they can be exclusive means to holy ends, depending on what phala you seek. Nor is the view lacking in classical literature like Mahabharata that the individual secures for himself the kind of sacred value epitomized by the deity in whom he has faith and with whom he seeks refuge. I guess therefore the concept of Ishtadevata and not just Gramadevata and Kuladevata. Thus, the conception that to you may happen as you believed, that idea is taken in its most daring sense. Broader religious tolerance than this in a single religion is hardly conceivable. In truth, it may well be concluded that Hinduism is simply not a religion in our sense of the word. अरे कुछ तो बाकी रखो आरएसएस के दल्ले. Okay, Nandish, so translated by Hans H. Girth. तो मेरे में अलग क्यों है? तो वो मार्टिनडेल का चीज अलग से आया या फिर ये छोटा करने के चक्कर में, अब्रिज करने के चक्कर में उड़ा दिया? This is very weird. I don't know. I think academics can throw light on this better. That exactly for what reasons, other than the juicy, sinister conspiracy ones, for what other reasons would such a paragraph go missing from a text? So I have to mark this, of course. RSS Kadalla, Max Weber is saying, in truth, it may well be concluded that Hinduism is simply not a religion in our sense of the word. And I started hearing these things. I think most anglicized people from liberal families have heard this concept only today, in the last 2-3 years maximum, at best, okay? That religion is not Hinduism and Hinduism is not religion. And like Sitaram Goel flips the script, he says that if Hinduism is religion, then Christianity and Islam are not religions. They are just imperialistic political practices, okay? Political projects. So this is exactly what some of its representatives, Ketkar among others, emphatically affirm. So which Ketkar is this? Max Weber quoting some Marathi academic apparently. What the Occidental conceives as religion is closer to the Hindu concept, sampradaya. By this, the Hindu understands communities into which one is not born, hence open door castes, but to which one belongs by virtue of common religious aspiration and common sacred paths. Hindu scholars call such communities theophatries, Theophatries. Among the theophatries in India are Jainism, Buddhism, some of the revivals of the Vishnu faith in a Redeemer, and the Shiva sect of Lingayat, all of which, insofar as they retain their essential beliefs and practices, were and are considered absolutely heretical. So you see, such, I think theophatries is a great concept. It's a great word to publish, to talk about this concept that Jainism, Buddhism, Hinduism are not different religions altogether. And Max Weber is pointing out that if at all they are religions, as he has learned from Hindu scholars only, and he is listening to them, we can call them theophatries, okay? Sort of, I guess, brothers inside one religion. Phratries probably means something to that extent only. Check the etymology of theophatries. Phatries. It's heretic, but it's still Hindu. Yes, that's, I think, even more fascinating. These sections of the books are absolute fireworks. बीच में थोड़ी सी boring लगी थी. अच्छा. This is the case even though Buddhism, for example, does not doubt the existence and power of Hindu gods and the theophatic Vishnu sect, and the Lingayat worships each one of the great gods of the Hindu triad, Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva. These communities are, therefore, regarded as heretical, even though, at least from our standpoint, and for the most part from that of Hinduism, there is no basic difference between their particular sacred values and paths and those of Orthodox Hinduism. At least they are far less divergent. Need to underline this. At least they are far less divergent than the widely different paths of salvation admittedly orthodox. In contrast to Hinduism, all these theophatries receive individuals into their fellowships. But even this is not decisively heretical. This is not even decisively heretical. This guarantee nahi hai कि ये definitely heretical है, वो भी नहीं है, okay? So Max Weber is pointing out. How am I supposed to react to this other than the animated way I am reacting it in? Okay. This sounds like a Sudhanshu Trivedi speech translated in English, right? The publisher edited your version, but the publisher edited my version and kept the paragraph. That's what you're saying, right? So Illinois वाले उन लोगों ने वो हटा दिया. तब तो और भी juicy है. 1660s, of or pertaining to Theophrastus, a Greek philosopher, especially in reference to his sketches on disagreeable aspects of human behavior. Okay, ये तो सिर्फ etymology है, but the connection अभी भी नहीं है. But even this is not decisively heretical. Nor does affiliation with a sect bring about excommunication, as indicated by the later parts of the epics and Puranas. From its beginning, specific Hindu religiosity has accepted the appearance of sects as completely normal. So, guys, Nandish, you see, this is an incentive for you to buy the book in physical copy from my affiliate links given in the description box. So, as indicated by the later parts of the epics and Puranas, from its beginning, specific Hindu religiosity has accepted the appearance of sects as completely normal. In fact, the truly devout Hindu is not merely a Hindu but a member of a Hindu sect as well. Right? And it may even happen that while the father is a Shivaist, the son may be a Vishnuist. In practice, this means that one of them was instructed by the Director de IAM, the guru of the Shiva sect, the other by one of the Vishnu sect. After completion of his instruction, one was received into sect membership by being informed of the sect's mantra, that is, its slogan like prayer formula. He bears the symbols of the sect, forehead marking, etc., frequents its temples, and finally prays exclusively and directly to Vishnu or Shiva, as the case may be, or to one of their incarnations. He considers the other two deities of the triad as mere aspects of his own god. He observes both the general rites of his caste and the special rites of his sect, as is orthodox Hindu practice. In contrast to the orthodox sects, the heresy of the Theophrastes consists in the fact that they tear the individual away from his ritualistic duties, hence from the duties of the caste of his birth, and thus ignore or destroy his dharma. When this occurs, the Hindu loses caste. And since only through caste can one belong to the Hindu community, he is lost to it. Dharma, that is, ritualistic duty, is the central criterion of Hinduism. Hinduism is primarily ritualism, a fact implied when modern authors state that mata or doctrine and marga, holy end, are transitory. Okay, mata and marga are transitory and ephemeral. They mean freely elected, while dharma is eternal, that is unconditionally valid. So mata marga aega jayega, dharma reh jayega. The first question a Hindu asks of a strange religion is not what its teaching or mata is, but its dharma. The Christian dharma of a Protestant is, for the Hindu, something positive in baptism, communion, church attendance, rest on Sunday, and other Christian festivals, the table prayer. These observances would be acceptable to the members of all good Hindu castes, with the exception of communion. When administered in either of its forms, communion requires the drinking of alcohol and compulsory table community with non-caste fellow Christians. Moreover, the negative aspects of the Christian dharma, that, for example, it permits Christians to eat meat, particularly beef, and drink hard liquor, stamp it as the dharma of the impure barbarians, Mlecha dharma. What then is the content of dharma to a Hindu? We learn that dharma differs according to social position. And since it is subject to evolution, अरे भाई, किसको छोड़ के किसको criticism करूं, और I'm running out of people to give galis to. Which is not absolutely closed, okay? We can learn that dharma differs according to social position. Can you think of the infinite repercussions of these statements? Both to the insane evil trads, commies, liberals, atheists, to some extent, I think even Charvakas. We learn that dharma differs according to social position, and since it is subject to evolution, which is not absolutely closed or closed and completed, dharma depends upon the caste into which the individual is born. With the split of old into new castes, dharma is specialized. Through the advance of knowledge, dharma can be further developed. You see, dharma differs according to social position. ये तो obvious है, यही तो inevitable है. तुम्हारा सोशल पोजीशन के बाद, तुम्हारा स्टेटस ग्रुप, कल्चरल कैपिटल एक्यूमुलेट करने के बाद तुम्हारा हर कुछ चेंज हो जाता है. ऑफ कोर्स that may or may not be associated with economic capital as well. And here, therefore, in some way, Christianity might try to show off their weapons against solving casteism, that okay, at least there is no untouchability in the villages. So now different people, regardless of their let's say genetic backgrounds, are hanging out at the church, and therefore we have solved the problem created by this evil Hindu caste system. But then we see that European societies, America, everyone has caste systems of their own, because status groups don't go away just by you wishing them away. Although every statusism needs to go away, but it is going to come back in some way or form repeatedly. This is inevitable. The status is inevitable, therefore statusism is also going to be inevitable. With the okay, through the advance of knowledge, dharma can be further developed. It's like what Kushal Mehra says about objective morality and how the moral arcs keep expanding. मैक्स वेबर का स्टैचू ही नहीं, आइडल भी चाहिए if Trump can. The conservative circles of Hinduism would, of course, accept this characterization unreservedly only for the remote past, that age in India, the Kali age of prophetic inspiration, which every priest-controlled religion like Judaism, Christianity, and Islamism must consider as ended in order to secure itself against innovation. In any case, dharma can be developed like the divine commandments of a denominational religion by quote-unquote finding thus far unknown but eternally valid consequences and truths. This discovery comes about primarily through the adjudication and binding perceptual responses of competent authorities. The Brahmans find such authorities in the castris and Pandit scholars in sacred law, educated in Brahmanical schools and Brahmanical institutions of higher learning, the holy seat of Sringeri for the south, or Sri Shankaracharya of Sankeshwar for the north and northwest. Among the authorities were Brahmanical monastic superiors, whose position may be roughly compared to that of the superiors of the Karaghin Southern Ireland monasteries, monasteries of Southern Ireland in the time of their organization. The other castes were subject to the jurisdiction of their caste institutions. Okay, the other castes were subject to the jurisdiction of their caste institutions, which formerly more than today depended in problematical cases upon the verdict of the Brahmans. Dharma depends first on sacred tradition, the adjudication, the literary and rationally developed learning of the Brahmans. Just as in Islamism, Judaism, and Christianity, there is no infallible, quote unquote, infallible doctrinal authority of definite priestly office, because the Brahmans represent no hierarchy of officials. The everyday dharma of the caste derives its content in large measure from the distant past with its taboos, magical norms, and witchcraft. Hindu Dharma, however, is more extensively and in practice more significantly an exclusive product of the priesthood and its literature than the present day ritualistic commandments of the Catholic Church. This fact has had important consequences for Hinduism. Let's see. Today, Dharma demands for all Hindus to unite across castes. Exactly. Caste system can also evolve. Yeah, status is caste system as we know it, as the law understands this, that was evolving anyway up until the British solidified it. But if castes are just status groups, they are going to evolve anyway. Intercaste marriage is actually a good thing for Hindus. Please listen to Neeraj Rai and this podcast with Vad. See, on genetic basis, so yes, but I don't see any point of talking about it, because marriage can't be predicated on anything other than, I think, a good vibe with your partner. And usually, good vibe comes with people from your status group. Okay, so if castes are not exactly status groups today, all I'm saying is that castes were status groups. They have now devolved into a play acting, cosplaying of past status groups. But in societies like Bengal, what ends up happening more often than not is that past status groups remain in those exact same forms in exactly those same families only. So more often than not, even today, you'll see most commie Bengali Brahmins marrying other commie Bengali Brahmins only. क्योंकि स्टेटस ग्रुप्स के जो सेम कल्चरल इंटरेस्ट होते हैं, कल्चरल कैपिटल जो होता है, वो सेम ही रह गया है. क्योंकि कोई अगर बी हाइव है बंगाल का सिस्टम, उसमें कोई आज तक कोई कुछ मतलब स्टोन रॉक थ्रो नहीं किया है उसमें. ओके, वो एकदम इंटैक्ट है. इन द सेम वे, एट बेस्ट दे विल प्रोबेबली marry someone from the, if Brahmin, Boiddo, and Kaisto are the three top jatis in Bengalis, the let's say the three most privileged jatis in Bengalis. in positions of power, etc. Every non-Bengali, if they know has heard of a Bengali, is from either of these three castes. And Shomode was pointing out, among non-Bengalis, at least in the western side of India, Khatris come under this category as well, Kushal Mehra's caste. So at best, a Brahman will marry, if not a Brahmin, then a Kayastha or Boiddo, and so on and so forth, for the other two jatis as well. Just few days back, I was having a fun conversation with a friend of mine who tied me Rakhi yesterday. So she was saying that she's from a Brahmin family, and her one of her uncles is very disappointed that everyone is marrying below their caste. All the daughters in that family has married below their castes now, but not that below. They have mostly married either Kayasthas or Boiddos. There's one in that family who is still waiting for marriage. She has not married anyone, I guess, to keep the hopes of their uncle alive, that she is still waiting to marry a Brahmin. Every dharma is equal to sadharan dharma. Max Weber, more about dharma today than today's Hindus. Hindus can't even tell you. Max Weber knows more about dharma than today's Hindus. Hindus can't even tell you about the different forms of dharma. Yes, Indian status groups have not evolved due to socialism and lack of economic mobility. The problem started by British laws, of course. Yeah, that is the problem. But you see, the problem, Kaladin, with just talking about intercaste marriages will be that how am I expecting a guy or a girl to have a good gel, good vibe, same wavelength with a person completely from a different status group? And it's not going to happen in like today in Kolkata. Probably from the 90s kids generation onwards, some Vaishya guys or girls may end up marrying a Brahmin Boidya or Kayastha. But that's happening only after today. Post 1991 liberalization, English language uniting a lot more people, or let's say, if the Vaishyas have have been able to gather some money, they have sent their kids to English medium schools. Therefore, the status groups have become similar. These kids have grown up watching the same movies, consuming the same content, etc. तब जाके status group match हो रहा है. अगर ऐसा match होता है ना, तब वो intercaste quota, so-called intercaste marriage, if caste is not status group, if caste is just this imaginary cosplay thing that goes on in India, if these sorts of, let's say, urbanization happens, तब वो intercaste marriage ना वैसे भी होता है. Which is the problem I have with people who are, let's say, saying the talking points and arguing in favor of intercaste marriage as if it's a political slogan. वो political slogan देके कुछ फायदा तो नहीं हो रहा है. फालतू में किसी कुछ हिंदुओं का फालतू में उनका गाड़ जलाया जा रहा है, जो जला के कुछ फायदा है भी नहीं. ऐसा नहीं है कि किसी का गाड़ जले तो तुम मुंह बंद करके बैठ जाओ, मगर ये जला के कुछ फायदा हो भी नहीं रहा है. एंड देन वी आर गेटिंग वियर्ड काउंटर्स फ्रॉम द अदर साइड इन आवर साइड ओनली, दैट hands of our Brahmin girls, what the fuck. So at the end of the day, it's going to be a similar vibe and consent. बस eating habits की थोड़ी issue होती है, right? By the way, 30% of intercaste marriages in Maharashtra is intercaste. It's happening organically. That is what I'm saying. It's going to happen organically anyway with urbanization. At least that shouldn't be opposed, as all I'm saying. Right. I'm with you. मैं भी urbanization वाला ही support करता हूँ. बस I don't want militantism in marriages. Right. Fair enough. The next subchapter is called the place of the Vedas. Let's see how big this is. हमारे पास आधा घंटा 1 घंटा टाइम है. हाँ, ये हो जाएगा. Interesting. हिंदू विचारधारा सिंह, अरे दादा, चंडीगढ़ में बहुत कॉमन है इंटरकास्ट मैरिजेस ड्यू टू कैपिटलिज्म. एग्जैक्टली. The place of the Vedas. Officially, Hinduism, like the other book religions, has a holy book, the Vedas. Here we wish to understand by Vedas, I guess a lot of people will disagree with this statement. Like the other book religions has a holy book, the Vedas. Here we wish to understand by Vedas only the collections of hymns, prayers and formulae. In a broader sense, all sacred Hindu books, including the Brahmans and Upanishads and the transitional sutras, are counted among the Vedas. One of the few essentially binding duties of Hindu faith is not, at least not directly, to dispute their authority. In the traditional view, any sect which, like the Jains and Buddhists, does not recognize their authority cannot be a Hindu sect. While at present this is not universally held, it is without question the normal view. I guess this is the source of the idea of the British that they got from, I think, speaking to some Hindus only, that Buddhism and Jainism are different religions because they don't follow Vedas. Vedas is the Bible equivalent for Hindus. तो जो वो Bible follow नहीं करता है वो अलग religion है. Raksha Bandhan usually happens on the same day as Upakarma Avani Avittam. Genuine Hindus will renew their thread on this day and relearn Gayatri Mantra as mentioned in the Vedas. I see. You need to say it the same way it is said in the Vedas. 30% of intercaste marriage is intercaste marriage. What does that mean? Yeah, he meant the 30% of marriage in Maharashtra is intercaste marriage. I'm vegetarian, married to non-vegetarian, इसलिए घर में 2 kitchens है. Nice. So, one of the few essentially binding duties of faith, quote unquote faith, is not at least not directly to dispute their authority. So, while at present this is not universally held, it is without question the normal view. But what does recognition of the authority of the Vedas, this collection of songs and hymns, ritualistic and magical formulas of varying age, some 600 years old, some 2000 years old, what in fact does it mean? The major constituent parts of the Vedas, rooted in the specialized functions of the Vedic priests during sacrifice, were originally orally transmitted. After their transcription by different schools of Brahmans, they continued in accordance with ancient correct practice to be withheld from non-Brahman readers, as the Bible is withheld from the laity, the laymen, lay people in the Catholic Church. Brahmans were able to impart knowledge of only certain sections of the Vedas, and that only to laymen of the highest castes. Yeah, so Vedic knowledge was getting barred, was getting prevented. Although Mahabharata, Ramayana, boiled down versions of Vedas were still, in fact, more propagated for the lay people of all castes. This secrecy was not due solely to the monopolization of magical formulae, a practice originally characteristic of all priests. Such secrecy had even more compelling objective reasons than those applying to the Vulgata after the strengthened position of the Brahmans made magical monopolization superfluous. One is tempted to think of the Occident. The New Testament contained passages of an ethical substance which first had to be explained away by priestly interpretation and thus in part turned into their exact opposite before they were suitable for the purposes of a mass church in general and a priestly organization in particular. This was no problem for the Vedas, for they do not contain a rational ethic, quote unquote. They don't contain a rational quote unquote ethic. The ethical world of Vedas is simply that of all heroic ages as expressed by singers dependent upon gifts from kings and heroes. Singers who did not fail to emphasize their own powers and the powers of the gods they might magically influence. The tenacity with which the Vedas retained this primitive character is to be explained by the fact that the hymns and particularly the prayer formulae were believed to be magically proven and they were therefore sacerdotally stereotyped. This preserved them from the kind of expurgation to which equivalent ancient Chinese literature was subjected by Confucius and perhaps others, and the historical and cosmological Hebraic literature by the priesthood. In consequence, the Vedas contain nothing about the divine and human affairs fundamental to Hinduism. The three great gods of Hinduism, even their names are hardly mentioned. The Vedas have nothing to say about the specific character of the nothing to say about the specific character the Hindu gods acquired later. The gods of the Vedas are functional and hero gods, externally similar to those of Homer. The Vedic hero is a castle-dwelling, charioteering warrior king with a war band of Homeric type and with a similar accompaniment of predominantly cattle-breeding yeomen, Yeomen. The great Vedic gods, especially the two greatest in their opposed characteristics, are Indra and Varuna. Indra, the god of the thunderstorm, was like Yahweh, a passionately active war. He's not saying was like Yahweh, he's saying was a passionately active war and hero god, in bracket, like Yahweh, the Jewish god. Omniscient, functional god of eternal order, particularly legal order. Both these gods have almost disappeared from Hinduism. No cults are built around them. They lead a purely historical life by grace of Vedic scholars. We could hardly expect more, however, considering the instability of the numerous Hindu deities and considering the practice which Max Muller called henotheism, that is, the practice used even by the ancient singers of referring to the god appealed to as the mightiest or only god in order to win his favor. The Vedas rather defy the Dharma of Hinduism. To a Christian, the interesting sentence. The Vedas rather defy the Dharma of Hinduism. What does he mean? Let's see. अरे इतना खराब पेन पकड़ने का हैबिट चला गया है पूरा जिंदगी से. उफ. To a Christian, the official recognition of the Vedas might appear to be a formal principle, quote unquote formal principle. Okay. To Christian, the official recognition of the Vedas might appear to be a formal principle of Hinduism in the manner of the Protestant recognition of the Bible, always with the reservation that it is at least not absolutely indispensable. With similar reservations, the sacredness of the cow, and hence the absolute prohibition against killing cows, if anything, might be considered among the ritualistic, quote unquote, substantive principles of Hinduism, forming part of universal Hindu Dharma. Whoever does not accept them as binding is not a Hindu. The worship of the cow, and to a less degree the veneration of cattle generally, had extensive economic and ritualistic implications. Even today, rational animal husbandry fails because, in principle, the animals must not die an unnatural death and hence are fed although their use value is long gone. The ritualistically illegal poisoning of cattle by outcasts provides some remedy. Cow manure and cow urine are believed to be purifying. To this day, a correct Hindu who has dined with a European will disinfect himself and perhaps fumigate his residence by use of cow manure. No correct Hindu will bypass a urinating cow without putting his hand into the stream and wetting his forehead, garments, etc. with it, as does the Catholic with holy water. During a pool harvest, heroic economy serves first to provide fodder for the cow. A beef eater is either barbarian or low caste. The source of these Hindu conceptions is of no concern to us here. The point is spoken like a true sociologist. The point is the Vedas supply no evidence for such attitudes towards cattle and take beef consumption for granted. In their attempt to explain this, Hindu quote-unquote modernists maintain that the contemporary age, Kali Yuga, is so wicked that the liberty of the golden age in this respect could no longer be granted. Moreover, if we look beyond the ritualistic prescriptions to the structured core of Hindu ideas, we fail to discover in the Vedas a single trace of such fundamental conceptions as the transmigration of souls and the derived karma doctrine of compensation. These ideas can only be interpretively read into some ambiguous and undateable passages of the Vedas. Bring It On is accusing something interesting. He's saying to say all sacred books of Sanatan Dharma constitute Vedas is a gross misrepresentation. For example, Puranas are just a collection of fiction, non-fiction, historical, religious stories. But remember, Bring It On, that they are all in line with what is they claim to be. I'm no Vedic scholar, of course, and it's not really that disputed of a statement to make that Puranas are always in line with Vedas. Anything that's not in line with Vedas is not Dharma. What's that quote? Vedo kilo dharma moolam, right? Or yeah, Vedo kilo dharma moolam. So even Manusmriti. So and even Arthashastra. These are clarifications that are written in the beginning of every Hindu text. So in that sense, Max Weber is saying, I think, that indirectly, therefore, every Hindu text in some way or the Vedo Akilo Dharma Moolam. Yes. So indirectly, therefore, every text in some way or form, if not direct passages, contains the core essence of Vedas only. Because anything that's going to be completely opposed to Vedas is not a Dharma text. Certain sects of Tantra don't follow the Vedas. Does it mean it's not part of Hinduism? Which parts? Because based on my reading of Tantra from these books, Shakti Shakta, Introduction to Tantra Shastra, podcast of Rajashi Nandi as well, that Tantra absolutely does not claim to be opposed to Vedas. Some sects of Tantra claim that some other sects of Tantra are not Vedic, but they are said as criticisms. But then those sects themselves say, no, we are absolutely in line with Vedas. Vedas cannot contradict Pratyaksha. Okay. Or is it that Pratyaksha cannot contradict Vedas? But yeah, how is Vedas going to or not going to contradict Pratyaksha? Okay, let's continue. These ideas can only be interpretively read into some ambiguous and undateable passages of the Vedas. Vedic religion knows only of a Hades, Yama's realm, and a heaven of the gods, essentially comparable to the quote unquote kingdom of the fathers in Homeric or Germanic antiquity. Neither the special heaven of the Brahmans nor the somewhat Christian or Olympian heaven of Vishnu or Shiva are to be found in the Vedas, not to mention the quote unquote wheel of rebirths and nirvana. Vedic religion affirms not only life and its values in the sense in which the later mass religion of Hinduism became life affirmative in contrast to virtuoso religion, but it addressed itself to things of this world, as did similar religions which grew out of half charismatic, half feudal warrior and booty communities. Obviously, the Vedas might possibly yield information concerning the prehistory of Hinduism, but they are not a source of insight into its content and its earliest historical forms. The Veda is a sacred book for Hinduism in about the way uh, Deuteronomy is for Christianity. To acknowledge the authority of the Vedas as demanded of the Hindu means fides implicita in a more fundamental sense than that of the Catholic Church, and precisely because no savior is mentioned whose revelation could have substituted new law for old. In practice, this means simply the acknowledgement of the authority of Hindu tradition resting on the Veda. Okay. In practice, this means simply the acknowledgement of the authority of Hindu tradition resting on the Veda and the continued interpretation of its world image. It means acknowledgement of the rank station of its leaders, the Brahmans. The Vedas contain only incipient and preliminary steps of the later development and classic form of Hinduism. Hmm. I have been reading the Mahabharata along with audio narration in Sanskrit. Nice. Shankaracharya said, if 1,000 Vedas say fire is cold, it cannot be accepted. But the Vedas, in fact, did not say fire is cold. So then, see, of course, I am no expert on this. Honeyman, then why this sort of mass consensus that Vedas are indisputable? Okay, and are you absolutely sure that Shankaracharya said this? Are you saying? I hope you are not saying this because of some particular sampradaya that's who opposes Vedas say these things. Next year, I should get my Upakarma redone again. It has been 15 years since I did it. I enjoy reading Upanishads as they debate about Veda. Vedanta is discussing about Vedas. Mandukya Upanishad is really good read. Shankaracharya, right? Yeah. Can Vedas evolve? Who's going to have the authority to write new Vedas? And the interpretation of Vedas might evolve, of course. Yes, in his Gita commentary. Okay, let's start now. Another, I think we have some more time. We'll do another subchapter called, okay, small subchapters, the Brahmans and the castes. Let's see. But we can't go to Abrahamic heaven as they claim. Yeah. In classical Hindu times as well as today, the position of the Brahman can be understood only in connection with caste. Without an understanding of this, it is quite impossible to understand Hinduism. Perhaps the most important gap in the ancient Veda is its lack of any reference to caste. The Veda refers to the four later caste names in only one place, which is considered a very late passage. Nowhere does it refer to the substantive content of the caste order with the meaning it later assumed and which is characteristic only of Hinduism. And you see, this is the kind of codification. This is why uh, Vedas, when Vedas were being written or being memorized, back then Hinduism was not the culture followed in this entire gigantic country or subcontinent. When it became the practice for the entire subcontinent, then social formation, social stratification, and status stratification had to happen, ended up happening, and then they were codified into law by people in power, and they, I think, took the help of these texts to codify them into law because these were the law books of the day. So you see how the chronology samjhiye, how the caste system may have come about in the first place. That yeah, people are seemingly forming guilds. Every profession has their solidarity with folks from their profession, and some professions are valuable, some professions are not that valuable in society. Some services are more valuable than other services, and based on that, and also proximity to the higher castes and to the people in power, based on these things we are noticing different status groups. But let's just say these are going to be guilds, based on which people born in those guilds will also go into those same professions, and I don't have to even innovate or have to even come up with let's say dreams of getting into different professions, because मेरा मेरा नौकरी तो बने बनाया है. Okay, I'll get into the same profession anyway, and I'll be even hired in those professions repeatedly for generation after generation. So running a society is not the same as writing things for spiritual purposes, right? Hence the lack of mention of caste systems in Rigved. Drishya and Drishta, Vedanta, the wise lesson. When you quote Shankara, it is important to quote the context of his statement. Shankara said fire is cold in context of Pratyaksha. You can't say everything is Maya and claim that hence fire is cold. When you quote, Dada, will you read G.A. Hudson book? वो प्लान नहीं है भाई, बहुत बड़ा है, 3 वॉल्यूम का है, और हर वॉल्यूम का कीमत तो है 3-4 हजार रुपए, तो वो नहीं होगा शायद. Scriptures which guide us to the attainment of dharma, artha, kam, moksha, which include both actual events and stories, are called. That is how it happened. Yes, Veda is Shabda Praman. Okay, let's continue. The Brahmans and castes. In classical Hindu times as well as today, the position of the Brahman can be understood only in connection with caste. Without an understanding of this, it is quite impossible to understand Hinduism. Perhaps the most important gap in the ancient Veda is its lack of any reference to caste. The Veda refers to the 4 later caste names in only one place, which is considered a very later passage. Nowhere does it refer to the substantive content of the caste order with the meaning it later assumed. Right. वो सोशल स्ट्रैटिफिकेशन तब भी नहीं हुआ था, क्योंकि तब ऋग्वेद कहाँ पे था? वो अफगानिस्तान, हरियाणा, राखीगढ़ी रीजन, हरियाणा पाकिस्तान region at best. Later assumed, and which is characterized. Okay. Refer to the substantive. कहाँ गया? The Veda refers to the 4 later caste names in only one place, which is considered a very late passage. Nowhere does it refer to the substantive content of the caste order with the meaning it later assumed, and which is characteristic only of Hinduism. Caste, that is the ritual rites and duties it gives and imposes, and the position of the Brahmans in the fundamental institution of Hinduism. Before anything else, without caste, there is no Hindu. But the position of the Hindu with regard to the authority of the Brahman may vary extraordinarily, from unconditional submission to the contesting of his authority. Some castes do contest the authority of the Brahman, but in practice, this means merely that the Brahman is disdainfully rejected as a priest, that his judgment in controversial questions of ritual is not recognized as authoritative, and that his advice is never sought. Upon first sight, this seems to contradict the fact that castes and Brahmans belong together in Hinduism. So you see, if Brahmans are in those positions of adjudication, there will be good Brahmans, bad Brahmins. There will be, let's say, Brahmans who get things right most of the times. There will be Brahmins who even get things wrong most of the times. There might be corrupt motivations as well. But I see these things as nothing different from today's IAS babus and lawyers, people like those in those positions, because even today, uh, different those UPSC aspirant types of people who are a caste, if castes are a thing, and they are status groups, and they show the similar kind of solidarities as well. You'll see that aspirants always point out, and I think retired babus as well, or babus who are nearing retirement, who people who hate Sanjeev Sanyal, they point out that, see, there's that great babu who did one great thing. Okay, because of that thing, because of that action by that great babu, something, are mere ruko, because of that great action by that babu, some incredible social ill has been prevented forever and after. Okay, which would not have been possible at all without that babu's intervention. So similarly, we can of course forever come up with bad lawyers, good lawyers, uh, evil lawyers, corrupt lawyers, and honest lawyers. In the same way, good Brahmins, evil Brahmins, corrupt Brahmins, and great Brahmins, truthful Brahmins. So, are we going to cosplay with about those institutions, or are we going to simply see it for what it was? Okay, They were similar kinds of professions. They had similar kind of stature in society. Bad things happened. Bad things were done by some of them. A lot of good things were also done by those people from those same professions. But now let's move the fuck on. Not blanket ignore those problems that they happened. Not blanket defend them. Nor say that it happened only in India. Also, Jains and okay, Abhay is saying also Jains and Buddhists do not completely reject Vedas. They just do not accept it as the supreme authority. Okay, it's like the Royal Academy of Science members. Yeah, I'm a Baniya, married a Brahmin. I'm from Patiala. My wife is from Chandigarh. You see, and Chandigarh is a pretty urban setting, and therefore your status groups uh, were were similar. You all probably had same tastes. This means as we gain more knowledge, it can become a part of Veda. पहले होता तो शायद हो जाता, अभी नहीं होगा. ये एक फॉसिलाइज्ड एक कॉस्प्लेइंग रिलीजन बना दिया है इन लोगों ने हिंदुइज्म को. Okay, let's continue. So upon first sight, this seems in contradiction, in contradict the fact that castes and Brahmans belong together in Hinduism. But as a matter of fact, if the caste is absolutely essential for each Hindu, the reverse, at least nowadays, does not hold, namely that every caste be a Hindu caste. There are also castes among the Mohammedans of India. ये का बोल दिया आरएसएस का दल्ला. Oh my god. And castes are also found among Buddhists. Oh my god. I am trying so hard to not curse. कितने इंग्लिश बड़े बड़े अच्छे कर्स वर्ड्स याद आ रहे हैं मुझे. सिर्फ ये मार्क करने दो भाई. ये German Sudhanshu Trivedi is pointing out about a decade back. When was this book written? Divya is saying Max Money is beyond RSS. Yes. There are also castes among the Mohammedans of India, taken over from the Hindus. And castes are also found among the Buddhists. RSS Kadalla. Even the Indian Christians have not quite been able to withhold themselves from practical recognition of the castes. Are sabka dhoti khul diya. These non-Hindu castes have lacked the tremendous emphasis that the Hindu doctrine of salvation placed upon the caste, as we shall see later. And they have lacked a further characteristic, namely the determination of the social rank of the castes by the social distance from the Hindu castes, and therewith ultimately from the Brahman. So proximity differences here. This is decisive for the connection between Hindu castes and the Brahman. However intensely a Hindu caste may reject him as a priest, as a doctrinal and ritual authority, and in every other respect, the objective situation remains inescapable. In the last analysis, a rank position is determined by the nature of its positive or negative relation to the Brahman. These are the things pointed out by Declan Quigley and Nicholas Dirks as well, which is why Quigley will piss off both commies and trads in the sense that he is basically saying that Brahmins were not those evil supreme authorities that everyone listened to wholeheartedly. Brahmins were, at the end of the day, in some contexts at least, employees of different people in authority in different castes. I remember how one of my teachers, a retired IAS, always used to boast about things he has done and how honest he was. Yes, and that takes nothing away from that particular IAS person's good things, and neither does it invalidate the criticisms of Sanjeev Sanyal against the IAS Babus. That is absolutely similar to the discussion we are having today about Brahmins, right? That Abhijit Ayar Mitra says, did admit that Brahmins did some bad things or not? P. Guru says, but we did good things. What kind of an answer is that? Yes. Great things were done by Brahmins. Bad things were done by Brahmins. As is the case in every fucking profession. There are great asshole musicians who don't submit your work on time or who behave rudely for no fucking reason. And there are great musicians with whom a client will have the best time of their life. How is it a fascinatingly Indian concept? What the fuck? Navayana is also a caste. They are definitely a caste. Brahminical patriarchy has arrived. So these non-Hindu castes have locked ये जगह तो हो गया. So yeah, a rank position is determined by the nature of its positive or negative relation to the Brahman. Quote-unquote caste is and remains essentially social rank, and the central position of the Brahmans in Hinduism rests primarily upon the fact that social rank is determined with reference to Brahmans. In order to understand this, we shall turn to the present condition of the Hindu castes as described in the excellent scientific census reports. Excellent scientific census reports. We shall also consider briefly the classical theories of caste contained in the ancient books of law and other sources. Today the Hindu caste order is profoundly shaken, especially in the district of Calcutta, of old Europe's major gateway to India. Many norms have practically lost their force. ये देखो मैक्स वेबर कौन से ट्रैप में पड़ गया. इनको लगा जैसे कि आज के नॉन बंगालीज को लगता है when they think of Calcutta that यहां पे कास्टिज्म ट्रूली डिस्ट्रॉय हो गया है. नहीं भाई, बहुत बहुत इंटेलिजेंट ब्राह्मण बौद्ध कायस्थों ने वो सिर्फ रिचुअल थोड़ा बहुत वेज ऑफ लाइफ ट्वीक करके पोजिशंस ऑफ पावर में रहने का फॉर्मूला ढूंढ लिया है. And now talking about caste in Bengal is almost looked down upon. That no, that's a UP Bihar problem. We don't have any of these problems. So of course it's not even happening in some contexts, the let's say absolutely evil ways that it happens in UP Bihar, of course, but who knows what's happening in the villages first and foremost in Bengal. And if not casteism, then other sorts of evil are going on anyway in the villages. That's not my point, and it's not my case that a Brahmin film director is actively saying that I won't hire a Shudra actor. No such things. But problem is cultural capital of one sort is forever getting worshipped and getting propagated among the masses from single positions of authority and power, which is why everyone else is going to go on playing catch up with the Brahmin, Buddha and Kaistos. Honeyman is saying, Dada, please read the previous messages. I quoted Shankaracharya. Okay. Surely even 100 Vedic texts cannot become solid if they assert that fire is cold or non-luminous. Should a Vedic text say that fire is cold or non-luminous, even then one has to assume that the intended meaning of the text is different, for otherwise its validity cannot be maintained, but one should not assume its meaning in a way that might contradict some other valid means of knowledge. Fair enough. But if there was economic prosperity in Kolkata back in the day, then probably his observation was right for the time. Our claim is also that caste becomes worse with poverty. Absolutely. But Kaladin, what he did not live to see was that caste-based, the cosplaying caste-based bad behavior went away, but ऐसे ही bad behavior in society तो चले नहीं जाता है. And besides, he was seeing almost the peak of Bengal Renaissance in a way. He was seeing the every you point here, there's a freedom fighter, there's a freedom fighter there, there's a freedom fighter there. You throw a rock in any direction in Kolkata back in those days, there's a highly educated, probably ICS or ICS aspirant freedom fighter who is ready to die, kill for the country, who is worshipping to all the goddesses of Hinduism and is absolutely proficient in Hindi, English, Bengali, Persian, Sanskrit, mathematics, physics, those kinds of people. So it was definitely a different Bengal he was observing. But he doesn't know that the descendants of the people he saw, they became Congresses, they became Brahmo Samajis, they became Commies, they became Naxals whenever the time suited them. Ayurveda is a Veda, lol. Naam mein hi Veda hai, boss. Yes. Bhai, kyun lanka lagaye ho leftist ki, lol. Lol. Now, besides the topic, what's your favorite jiu-jitsu guy? Mine is Marcelo Garcia. I like roided up jiu-jitsu fighters. Veda means knowledge. Vid dhatu se aata hai. Why did you shave off your mustache and let your beard stay? To blend in with, to stay out of trouble. No. I think I like this as a style for long now. For since before I started following any Hindu Muslim politics as well. Okay, let's continue then. Today, the Hindu caste order is profoundly shaken, especially in the district of Calcutta, old Europe's major gateway to India. Many norms have practically lost their force. तो ये भाई सिर्फ नॉर्म का ही फोर्स लॉस हुआ है और कुछ फोर्स लॉस नहीं हुआ है. The railroads, the taverns, the changing occupational stratification, यही मैं बोल रहा हूँ कि यही inevitable है. The concentration of labor through imported industry, colleges, etc. have all contributed their part. Yes, in a way, capitalism does disrupt the existing staticism, which is what happened in Bengal, which he is noticing. But जब अब चुतियापा फिर से शुरू हुआ पॉलिटिकली, तब वो वहां हर जगह पे अपना स्टेटस ग्रुप अपने जगह पे फिर से सॉलिडिफाई हो गया. मगर इंटरेस्टिंगली कोई मतलब जब तक कोई लोअर कास्ट लोग, एटलीस्ट वैश्य एंड डाउनवर्ड्स, by the time they thought of or at least reached any position of power, by that time poverty had already struck Bengal again, which is why it took again post 1991 reformations for non-Brahman Boidik Kaistos to get to positions of power. Mostly that is the case. Katwa de bhai. Why are the leftists again blaming Hindus and Hindu customs for rapes in India? और कुछ दिन कर लेने दो, और कितना दिन करेंगे? They are trying to distract away from West Bengal. Yes. So the railroads, the taverns played their part, etc. The quote-unquote commuters to London, that is, those who studied in Europe and maintained voluntary social intercourse with Europeans, were outcasts up to the last generation. But more and more, this pattern is disappearing, and it has been impossible to introduce caste coaches on the railroads in the fashion of the American railroad cars or station waiting rooms, which segregate white from colored in the southern states. स्टेट ने तब इंसेंटिवाइज नहीं किया तो कि तुम अपना कास्ट घुमा के दिखाते फिरो, तो इसलिए तब कॉस्प्लेइंग एज योर कास्ट मेंबर वाज नॉट पॉसिबल, जो कि आज के दिन में और भी ज्यादा इंसेंटिवाइज्ड है, ज्यादा पॉसिबल है. All caste relations have been shaken. This is all we need. And the stratum of intellectuals bred by the English are here as well as elsewhere bearers of a specific nationalism. They will greatly strengthen this slow and irresistible process. अरे greatly strengthen किए थे, उसके बाद भोसवी के कम्युनिज्म आके फिर से चुतिया बना दिया सबको. For the time being, however, the caste structure still stands quite firmly because of poverty. First, we must ask, with what concepts shall we define a caste? The term is of Portuguese derivation. अरे RSS का दल्ला, सब कुछ बोल दिया. The ancient Indian name is varna or color. Let us ask it in the negative. What is not a caste? Or what traits of other associations really or apparently related to caste are lacking in caste? Great question. See, a great academic asks the greatest questions. उत्तर मिले ना मिले वो अलग बात है, पूछो तो सही. क्या beautiful way of looking at it. What is not a caste? Or what traits of other associations really or apparently related to caste are lacking in caste? What, for instance, is the difference between caste and tribe? This is where this subchapter ends, and this is where our live stream today will end. But we will do a recap of this subchapter. I think we'll read it in its entirety, or at least half. The next day we discuss this book. Beautiful. Next subchapter is called Caste and Tribe. Let me check some comments now. Max Weber, Golwalkar ka Punarjanam. Hindu customs keep the rape rates of India relatively low. हाँ भाई, per capita rape rate देखो भाई. ये सब डिफेंड ना मैं नहीं करना चाहता. I have been not countering any commie on these issues for the last few days, because even if with the help of lies, if there is a further decrease in rape, and let's say, and I don't think it will happen, but actual punishment of the rapists, if these sorts of outbursts of emotions and hatred against anyone and everyone, men, Hinduism, India, etc., at the end of that, if some rapists go to jail, that's a good thing. But there has to be some limits, of course, and it's almost untimely to point these things out. But it is true that India's rape rates are insanely low compared to any other country of similar poverty and GDP per capita. I will donate my copy of this book to my library. Good. US has higher rate than India. How valid is the argument of underreporting in India compared to USA? Compared to USA, I think it's a valid argument, because USA may at least police stations function better than Indian Indian police stations, but we don't have to compare ourselves just with USA. यूएसए के तरह और बाकी चीजें कंपेयर करने बैठूंगा तब तो बोलोगे, तब कॉमी और ट्रैट दोनों मिलकर हमको बोलेंगे कि ये तो अमेरिकन प्रोपागेंडा हो रहा है. तो यूएसए अब छोड़ो ना, थोड़ा और सीमिंगली सिमिलर सिचुएशन में जो सब देश है उनके साथ कंपेयर करते हैं. और वैसे भी up until now, the kinds of rapes that were happening, क्योंकि ये fake allegations are a more recent phenomenon, or actually having consensual relationship with someone and realizing 6 years later that I think I did not consent hard enough. Those kinds of things are also recent developments. But the kinds of rape that are common only in urban areas, which is not the kind of not the kind that happened in RG Core. Basically, let's say you went on a date with someone, you were having a drink with them, and they put something in your the day trip drug, roofie and stuff. Those kinds of things have been common in USA, and I bet you those will also go unreported because of the embarrassment. तो यहाँ पे unreported होता है क्योंकि ये अगर कोई लोकल नेता वेता इन्वॉल्व है उस रेपिस्ट के साथ, अगर वो रेपिस्ट खुद किसी पावरफुल पॉलिटिशियन के साथ, लोकल पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज के साथ इन्वॉल्व है, तो वहां पे रिपोर्ट करना था, तुम भूल जाओ, ऐसा है ही. और फिर चूतिया ज्यादातर जगह पे, बहुत जगह पे पुलिस वाले खुद बोल देते हैं कि हम अपने अपने आप में थोड़ा कुछ मतलब मीमांसा कर लो या फिर शादी करवा दो इनका, ऐसा चूतिया पे होता है. तो ये सब अवॉइड करने के लिए, और फिर वो पूरा डिस्क्रिप्शन देना पड़ता है. वो लोग पूछेंगे कहाँ थे, काहे थे रात को, क्यों गए थे, एक्सेट्रा, वर्जिन होने की हो कि नहीं, ये सब प्रमाण करना पड़ता है, पूरा डिस्क्रिप्शन देना पड़ता है. और फिर रेप हो गए तो उसके बाद तुम्हारा क्या होगा सोसाइटी में. ये सब कारण है अंडर रिपोर्टिंग के लिए. मगर भाई डेट रेप के लिए भी अंडर रिपोर्टिंग कोई भी फर्स्ट वर्ल्ड कंट्री में भी होगा, ये ऑब्वियस है. एम्बैरेसिंग है तो अंडर रिपोर्टिंग वहां पे भी होगा. कितना अंडर रिपोर्टिंग है यूएस में, वो ऑफ कोर्स वी कैन नेवर अंडरस्टैंड. I found a book on political parties. In it, BJP was a party with Brahmanical interpretation of Hinduism. Yeah. Max Weber भी वही कर रहा है. The actual problem in India is sexual abuse of children, often by relatives. Isn't that the problem everywhere in the world, Anand? Because again, like in every profession, there will be evil uncles and stuff in the family as well. And a few years back, I had a very weird conversation with a commie friend of mine, who is always with the believe the victim kind of scenario and club. A guy had sent messages to an online friend he made, and by the tone of the screenshots, I realized that he's that kind of a sort of a very soft spoken, timid sort of a guy. Okay. Basically, if he sees any woman, he'll immediately fall on her feet and start worshipping her in the efforts to win her over. Okay, he thinks that worshipping, being the servant, doormat of a girl, is the best way to ask out a girl. Okay, that kind of a guy. So a girl had posted screenshots of this guy messaging him, which was being criticized. The guy was being criticized by a commie friend of mine, and I had a conversation with her to realize, to try to understand why is she not defending the guy in this case. Okay, so the reason for posting screenshots of messages of the guy along with his full name, face, every fucking thing. What an absolute dumb bitch that who posted that screenshot. The guy, after talking with that girl for many months, says that I want to share some deep, dark, sad things that are going on in my life. He says, I get repeatedly molested by my grandmother, and I have been getting molested by my grandmother ever since I was a child. She basically forces me to have sex with her. And firstly, the insane idiot bitch, she's took the screenshot and said that, see the kind of vile messages I get from men. What in the fuck was a vile message in the as if it's an eve teasing sort of a thing? And then I see my commie female friend also defends that girl and does not at all think or say at least that at least you should hide that guy's face and name. I'm pretty sure that guy has probably committed suicide by now. Or forget defending the guy, forget finding out where the guy lives and going to his family to rescue him, forget all those things. She doesn't even criticize the fact that his name and face is visible in those goddamn screenshots. So I asked her politely only in the conversation, because I was very fascinated and curious about this, that how can she not defend this? I thought she was a great activist for anyone who is let's say assaulted sexually. She says that no, I don't trust the guy in this case. I said, how the fuck do you know this? How do you know that the guy is lying or something? She said that it might be a fetish of that guy to talk to a woman about these topics. That might be true. There possibly is a 0.001% chance that in fact is true. But then how is that not applicable for any other kinds of allegations in society? So you see, commies के हाथों कोई भी problem solve नहीं होगा society में, चूती है. The secret ingredient is saying, ठीक है, let's talk about India only. Women don't have any freedom in India. Shaming in Indian culture is still a very big social issue. True. There will always be a certain amount of pee among most animal species and even in human animals. Problem is we don't keep it, keep watch out for it in India. So men talking about sexual abuse is oppression of women. That is the situation of female victimhood in India. Yeah. Sir is saying, Dada, are you aware of any Telugu philosophers or poets? I'm curious to know because we Telugu people are aware of many Bengali scholars and philosophers. No. In terms of South Indian philosophers in general, the only one I am aware of is Purandara Dasaru. দাদা বেগুনি আর আলু চপ বানাবো কাল. Okay then. Carolina Goswami has made several videos on date rape in Europe and how majority of yeah, of course they will go unreported. These are understandable things. So all I'm saying is that yeah, ठीक है. तुम लोगों को करना है तो करो. I'm on a break from criticizing feminists because this outburst of emotions might be a good thing for solving other problems, but they are in fact wrong. Dada, talk about FIHCR. Yeah, FIHCR, हमारे Vikram Sampath is doing a fascinating thing. He has found out great scholars and stuff, great funding. Let's check out his website, guys, together. This is the kind of stuff we need, and great research has been funded. I think some people have commented on my post where I shared the screenshot of that thing that Chandrachud Ghosh and Dr. Shomode have gotten the fellowships. Some people have said that the topics should have been more interesting, but I tell you that if they are not going to be just evil twins of commies, okay, commies are already evil, so just Hindu versions of commies. I think the research topics are very significant, and if there is in fact great research in those topics, great things can come out. Interpret हम बाद में कर लेंगे भाई, कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है. हमारा लाइव स्ट्रीम तो है ही, वो जहां से वो सब मैन्युस्क्रिप्ट इन लोगों को लिखने दो, हम डिस्कस कर लेंगे. तो बट एटलीस्ट इन द इंटरेस्ट ऑफ ब्रिंगिंग बैक सम लेवल ऑफ competence, quality, research, and not just blind Marxism, some level of objectivity. For that, these topics are great anyway. But let's discuss the specific topic that Dr. Shomode has chosen. That's very, very fascinating as well. Oh, M. Shastri, I'm sorry for the misunderstanding. I am not enrolling in any fellowship. Those people have gotten a fellowship, okay? I'm not in any way associated with FIHCR. I just pointed out that Chandrachud Ghosh and Dr. Shomode have received this fellowship in Dr. Vikram Sampath's web organization. We'll just check those out now. Those research should be able to stand on their own. Jadunath Sarkar's work still stand on in its own quality. Exactly. यही research तो state की ओर से नहीं हो रहा है. State with capital S. होगा भी शायद in the course you are enrolling, meaning my sociology BA course. Yeah. I have enrolled myself in a distance education institution to study sociology. Let's check out Vikram Sampath's website. I think they'll get 15 lakh rupees for the entire fellowship. I think it's a 1-year fellowship. There will be different milestones at the end of which you are supposed to come up with a publishable manuscript, which will be the book, like in case of Abbas Maldahir. Abbas Maldahir was the fellow when this institution first came out, I think. Rajiv Malhotra has dealt with this authority of Vedas vis-a-vis Pratyaksha Pramana in his book, The Battle for Sanskrit, I see. You asked if we would be interested in doing the course with you, so talk about that as well. Right. For that, Shastri, you'll have to take admission in any Indian, you'll have to be an Indian citizen for that first and foremost. Any Indian open university, whether it's IGNU, the central one, or any state university. So after that, we can basically start the course together. I don't want to say the name of the university I'm enrolled in, because who knows what the government plans and when. But you can, in any university, open university of your choice, any government. I'm in a government open university. Okay, that is the problem. I suspect shenanigans might be played against me someday. So you can join any IGNU or your state open universities, and let's start a sociology course together. I am so far admitted in the BA sociology because remember, I'm a college dropout. If I had completed my graduation in journalism back then, I could start today with masters, which I can't. So open universities in India accept OCIs. Do they now? तब तो बढ़िया है. Let's start then. In the university I'm enrolled in, वहां पे तो अभी भी 26 तक उनका एडमिशन चल रहा है. That will be the rough kind of timeline for all the universities, I think for IGNU as well. Check it out. Need to change very quickly. I talk to so many people, my friends, all engineers. I talk about creating $1 billion company in Patiala. They think I'm crazy. We only will be what we imagine. Yes. Okay. Hmm. FI HCR fellowship. Yes. Let's see what details we can find here. मेरे इंटरनेट को क्या हुआ? Guys, can you all see me? I think my internet is gone. Its connection is unstable. If you're on Wi-Fi, try plugging it to your computer. They are saying. Let me know if the internet is coming fine and the audio is coming fine, etc. I'm going on refreshing the page. Okay, it's working because is saying. वो पेज नहीं खुल रहा है विक्रम संपत का, वो तो इस वेबसाइट का भी प्रॉब्लम हो सकता है. Impressive Singh, Dada, what are your thoughts on a self-hosted Mastodon server and an account on platforms like Kick, Twitch or Rumble? हमारे तो ऑडियंस ज्यादा नहीं है वहां पे, that is the problem. Otherwise, Rumble would be great though. All good. Glad Max Weber had such a deep grasp of Eastern philosophy. And he's not even interested in the philosophy aspect. No, Anand. He's just noticing the social organization of these cultures. Might be might be a problem of this website then. Okay, let's see if we can go to just the just its Twitter and check out the topics that they approved. Okay, great topics, especially more than Dr. Shomode's topic. I'm more interested in Chandrachud Ghosh's topic because he's already has written extensively on Netaji. His research skills are not in question, but now this guy is going to be given all the resources, 15 lakh rupees for the entire fellowship, probably, if I'm correct, if I read the website correctly. And with those 15 lakh rupees, he's going to research from Renaissance to communist takeover, a brief history of the contest of ideas in Bengal and the creation of a Bengali identity. See, notice that Dr. Vikram Sampath knows what he's doing, and therefore this topic, which is largely unresearched, everyone asks these questions. No one researches these questions. If at all these are, let's say, at all approached, it will be approached by a rabid commie. Although Shekhar Bandyopadhyay, also a Marxist, he has written a great book called Caste in Bengal, and he was one of the first ones to claim that Bhadralok is a caste in itself. Brahman Boido Kaisto is today a caste. So new research on this topic is coming up. I think it's a great topic. Next in line is someone called Shan Kashyap. I don't know who he is. He's a historian and translator. His topic is histories of textbook controversies in India, circa 1870 through 2005. And not only is Vikram Sampath, let's say, commissioning this research, which is focused on Bengal, at least in case of Chandrachud Ghosh, he has also picked up a Bengali for this. Of course, he has not taken ethnicity credentials or criteria into account, but he's hiring the best people for the job. Dr. Shomode, professor of history at Rishi Hood University, the theory and practice of Indic kingship, reconsidering Marxist historiography. अब ये theory and practice of Indic kingship जब आएगा, not kinship, kingship, राजा बनना, इसके लिए my hunch is I think Dr. Shomode will have to look at Dr. Declan Quigley. I don't know if he has a PhD. I think he has. Dr. Declan Quigley and Nicholas Dirks as well, okay? Because the papers we discussed from by Declan Quigley, the stuff we discussed by Nicholas Dirks, they were on these specific topics. And finally, some fresh new research from a guy who is alive and in that field, because Declan Quigley was kicked out from University of St. Andrews for some shenanigans, for not reasons that are unknown to me. And now he runs a sort of a massage parlor. It's called Body Minding. It's a kind of a yoga, sort of a workout, kind of a fitness thing that he runs in Spain. He has completely quit the field of social anthropology, but now a historian is getting into this field. This is going to be very much fun. Next is Arshia Malik. columnist, writer, and consultant at the New Indian, Indo-Muslims, and cultural resurgence of Bharat. The name is pretty vague. We can't exactly figure out what she plans to do. To those who missed out this year, let's check out this comment. Congratulations, fellows. To those who missed out this year, we are certain that your efforts towards reclaiming our Bharatiya Itihas will not go in vain. Please remain connected with these people. Okay, so these were the people who were rejected. Let's see what were the topics. Nabarun Borua, that young Assamese guy, currently pursuing MSc in Contemporary Chinese Studies, Oxford University. Wow. Author of the book Ashtalakshmi, The Land of Eastern Light. I guess he's the author of this book, right? Jasraj Singh Dhanju, scholar and UPSC aspirant, exploring the idea of Indic civilizational consciousness and cultural unity in Sikh tradition. Arti Tiku, Nehru's India, Modi's Bharat. Lakshmi Arya, the essential religious practice, who is she? Dean of Research and Professor of History at RV University. RV University क्या है? किसी को पता है? The essential religious practice of Indic jurisprudence, the limitations of the constitutional framework. Interesting. Notice, guys, what's the common thread between all the 4 people whose research? This is absolutely my personal opinion. No disrespect to any of these 8 people, but I'm going to observe something. What's common between all these 4 people versus what's common between all the 4 people whose research has been approved? Notice this. These 4 topics are, I think, what would be considered more juicy and more interesting by the mainstream of Hindutvadis today. I think this is the kind of research that, let's say, if it was in the hands of Garuda publications, they would fund all of these 4 topics. But I think it's the genius of Vikram Sampath that he has commissioned those topics which are more necessary to fight the battle inside academia. These topics themselves are almost no-go zones in academia. So the research that Chandrachud Ghosh and especially Dr. Shomode and Chandrachud Ghosh are doing, especially those 2, those are going to be direct hammers to beat commie academics and their intellect with. Let me check. RV University, Bangalore. RV is a South Indian school. I'm also doing research on Darzi caste in India. Nice. Very interesting subgroup of 15 million people involved in tailoring. A lot of Darzi in their surname as well. A lot of people have Darzi in their surname as well, yes. How does Indica by Megasthenes describe India? Does he give a neutral perspective or does he look at us with a racial superiority sense? No idea. All I know is that he does not talk about caste. I'm going to build $1 billion company in Patiala. I currently live in Boston, US. Nice. You live in Boston, aha. The home of Berkeley College of Music, Stanford, and MIT. Rashtriya Vidyalaya, I see. All 8 have been approved. ये अप्रूव हुआ है? ओ ये तो अप्रूव हुआ है, तब तो और भी बढ़िया है. So you see, topics that would be seemingly, let's say, palatable to every Hindutvadi, those 4 have been approved, and the 4 which would not be palatable to some Hindutvadis, even those 4 have been approved. Great. So think of the kind of funding that Dr. Vikram Sampath has managed. Great. Let's see, who pointed out? Kaladin pointed this out. Okay, thanks, Kaladin. Let's see next. UPSC aspirant, yeah. These are also the fellow. Comment separate hai. Okay, right. Academics like Shan gives meat to the Marxist manipulation of our history. We need more people like him. Never heard of him. I'll have to check out some of his papers. That's what a good sociologist would do. There was a devious way they destroyed the nationalist identity of South Indian people, or they tried to at least. Yeah, they have been largely successful. Dada, what about Mastodon? I'll have to think about it harder. We need more research into post-dominion status to Periyarize. Periyar is power in Tamil Nadu too. Exactly what Anand Sridhar is asking for here is the equivalent of what Chandrachud Ghosh is doing for Bengal. I'm building a fashion tech company. Check it out. Nice. Link to nahi aaya hai, secret ingredient. M. Shastri Singh, but you can bring your audience there as well. Be like Dave Rubin, post on both platforms. Right. What I'm basically doing on Twitter as well. Right now, my live stream is going on in Twitter as well. So yeah, maybe after I earn a little more, then I can think of subscribing as a content creator on those platforms as well. Also read Marco Polo's expedition to Malabar coast. Anand Sridhar, like some British officers. Okay. Political situation makes keeping ERP essential. Some say he overinflated the greatness of India. Oh, Okay. He talks about 7 rigid groups in modern India, but they don't match the Varna or even the caste system, right? Okay, let's see if any more relevant comments on this. And there was one interesting thing I want to point out to you about Vikram Sampath's team in running this organization. Okay, check this out. There was one girl's bio that really fascinated me, and which is I think a bright light of hope. Okay, in the sense that uh, it's looking great for the future of Hindutva academia. Check this out. If at all this website is going to open, इससे नहीं हो पाएगा. So among the about us, the team at FIHCR, okay, there's one girl. कहाँ गया? ये तो ट्विटर लिंक है. FIHCR का और कोई भी पे विंडो नहीं खुलेगा क्या? FIHCR टीम देके सर्च करते हैं. There's a girl who has a master's in creative writing from University of Edinburgh, and she is running this organization, this research institution with Dr. Vikram Sampath, and these people have enough funding to fund 8 scholars with 15 lakh rupees each for what this is, I guess, a 1-year fellowship to produce manuscripts. Can you believe that? Can you believe what kind of people are getting involved in these things, and therefore the kind of fascinating results we are going to have very soon? Fellowship members team, यहाँ पे टीम पे देखो, ठीक है. जदुनाथ सरकार को श्रद्धा दिखा के पेज खुल रहा है. टीम कहाँ गया? About us, team, advisory board. Yes. Again, this is also not opening. Yeah, ये वेबसाइट तो इनको देखना पड़ेगा क्या है. टीम. अरे, who are the people running this? कहाँ गया? Advisory board पे click नहीं हो रहा है. Okay, so screw this. Anyway, Abhas Maldahir is also there in the team. But anyway, there's one such fascinating person. क्रिएटिव राइटिंग पे जिसका दखल है, वो भी मास्टर्स किया हुआ है यूनिवर्सिटी ऑफ एडिनबरा से. उसको आज के दिन में कोई ना कोई, आई डोंट इवन नो इफ शी इज अ कॉमी और नॉट, बट एटलीस्ट शी हैज टेकन अ जॉब इन एन ऑर्गेनाइजेशन व्हिच इज नॉट गोइंग टू एनकरेज कॉमी थिंकिंग, राइट? तो उस महिला का वो स्किल सेट अप्लाई होगा इन नॉन कॉमी थिंग्स फॉर इंडिया. कैन यू बिलीव द इम्प्लीकेशंस फॉर इट? ग्रेट थिंग्स आर इन स्टोर, गाइस. Let's have one more try. Our team, ये इस वेबसाइट से नहीं हो पाएगा, ये कास्ट करने से नहीं हो रहा है, ठीक है. Okay then, thank you for joining, guys. Good night, bye bye.
श्रवरूढं महाभीमं गुणाद्रष्टाम्बरप्रदम् अस्य युक्तं त्रिनेत्रं च कपालकर्णिकाकरां मुक्तकेशीं ललज्जयं पिबन्तीं रुधिरं चतुर्बाहु समायुक्तं वराभयकरं स्मरेत्. चतुर्बाहु समायुक्तं वराभयकरं स्मरेत्. काली